Hello and welcome to today's video. We're going to look at the position that all of the best players, all of the tour players share, right? And quite simply, it's the fact that as a good player, as a pro hits the golf ball, they all have their weight forwards. They all have their weight towards the target side, right? And I feel like somehow, some people have the notion that golfers with their weight forwards is somehow the stack and tilt golfers around that system in this hand, and then every other player who does something different will have a different swing, will be in this bracket, in this hand over there. And in reality, nothing could be further from the truth. If the person is any good at golf, as they hit the golf ball, they have their weight forwards. It is a commonality they all share, and without it, they wouldn't be able to play high-level golf. Okay, so we're going to look at some of the detail. We're going to look at different players from different swing methodologies with different coaches, different teachers, what it looks like when they make their swings, and we're going to start to notice this correlation between all of them. They all have their weight forwards. Let's dive in. Let's get rid of any ideas you might have in your mind that this isn't something for you, because it is an everybody thing. Everybody who's any good does it. Hips forwards, weight forwards. Let's have a look. Let's start this piece with specifically a golfer being taught by Mike Bennett and Andy Plummer, the Stack and Tilt guys right here, Charlie Wee on a range at a tournament. And what do we mean by the weight forwards? Clearly you can see as he makes his backswing, there is no drift over towards the trail side, so his head isn't moving that way, his hips aren't moving that way. Everything stays relatively centered with the head and the hips just forwards off center. As he carries on his motion, you'll see the hips keep moving forwards, and I have not drawn any lines particularly here because I'm not on a tripod, but you can see the hips start to go more and more forwards, a move towards the target in this direction. And as he hits the golf ball, you can clearly see that he has some side bends to the right, like so his spine is tilted away from the target, and he's done that because thanks to his hips moving laterally towards the target, moving closer to the target than when they started. So think of it in the simplest terms, your pelvis, there is a center somewhere to the pelvis, that center is displacing, is moving, it's sliding towards the target, so it's now closer to the target. So as this golfer hits the ball, as Charlie's hitting the ball here, great example of having the weight forwards. Why does he do this? Why is it so important for a good player? Well, because it enables him to hit the ball then the ground, and you can see it here, right? You can see it just at the bottom of the screen. He's hitting the ball. He's hitting the ball first and then taking a divot after the ball. And for all the golfers out there, for the masses of golfers, that is the biggest differentiator between skill levels. Your high handicap players hit so many shots where they hit the ball a little bit thin, so they hit the top of the ball, they never really make contact with the ground, or when they do make contact with the ground, it's a little bit too soon, it's before the golf ball, and so as a result of that, they hit fat shots, right? It's the biggest factor, it's the separator between skill levels. As the handicap decreases, as the players get better, it means they've learned to strike the ball better, they're making better contact, and that means hitting the ball then round. What controls contact? Well, a handful of things, but the biggest factor in this is the weight. So if your weight is forwards like this, it becomes much easier to hit ball then ground. And that's why you will never find a top golfer who doesn't have the weight forwards as they're hitting the ball. So this was the example of Charlie. Now let's look at some other more random players. I mentioned random players, maybe not so random. Scotty Scheffler, the world number one. So let's have a look at what he does. So he makes his backswing, and if anything, the head stays nice and centered, and the hips don't do a great deal in terms of displacement left or right. And then look at how he kicks this into gear. Look at that motion of the pelvis, right? So again, if I just drew some lines on here, so we're gonna go right from the beginning. So he is set up to dress, and the most forward side of his pelvis is right against this red line. And then notice as he goes back, it pretty much stays on the red line, maybe a little bit off it. And then watch this massive shifts, this considerable shift towards the target with the pelvis, right? And this is with a much longer club in hand, because again, this is another thing. People sometimes say that they understand how this works with a 9 in hand when they're trying to hit ball then turf. In reality, this also keeps your path going outwards of the golf ball longer. It keeps you from making divots that are too big, so it stops you being too steep into the golf ball. It just means you're hitting the ground. You're controlling the depth of your arc, and you're controlling the position of your low points. So low point control is better, so strike is better. Depth control is better, so strike is better. It just makes you a better ball striker, full stop. So here he is, well number 1. You can see his pelvis is displaced many inches towards the target. I don't have a number for how many this is, but if we were putting this on a 3D system, I'm sure it's a lot. So you can see by the time he's coming through to the finish here, he's almost, the pelvis is, well, it's not even almost, the pelvis is literally in front of where the most forward point of it was at setup. So much it's gone forwards, right? So he's not a stack and tilt golfer. He doesn't work with Mike or Andy or with any of us within the network, but he is demonstrating those principles. So that's the world's number 1 golfer doing this. Okay, let's have a look at another random golfer. So now let's have a look at another random golfer. And as you suspected, not so random after all. We have world number 2, Rory McIlroy. And I don't remember where I got this footage from, but it's really good. So thank you very much to whoever posted this up. So we've got the world number 2. We've seen the world number 1. Now we're going to see the world number 2. And just to make it interesting, we have a rear view. Okay, so same things. I'm going to draw a line on the front side of the pelvis and on the back side of the pelvis. And actually, in this case, we'll put one on the sort of tailbone as well, right? What are we going to notice? Well, guess what? He's going to shift his weight forwards. Otherwise, he wouldn't be Rory McIlroy. He'd be someone else. So let's go back. So a little shift initially backwards, absolutely. But then notice how his trail hip is starting to work towards the midline, right? So he's arrived at the top of his swing, and he is forwards of where he started. And as he comes down, you keep seeing that shift, the hips going further and further forwards. Right? He keeps going towards the target. Again, so much so that as he's hitting the golf ball, virtually all of them is in front of his starting midpoint, right? And he keeps on going through, and everything is going forwards towards the target. So he's very much in that position all the good players are in, where the belt buckle's gone forwards and upwards towards the target. So my reference point I often say to golfers is when you finish your swing here, just hold the finish, relax your arms, bring in the alignment stick, bring your golf club to the point that's most forwards around the waist, and that point should be closer to the target than the heel of your lead foot, which is exactly what Rory has here. Again, just a perfect illustration that as he hits the golf ball, he's an expert player, he's one of the best in the world, and therefore he has his weight forwards. It's not just a stack and tilt thing. Stack and Tilt have just done the best job at explaining the how, the why, and making it more prevalent to the masses. But it's born of the fact that he needs to make a good strike, among other things, and that's why he's doing it. That's why you will not find any examples of the best players who don't have their weight forwards. You can give me exceptions when I say that. Like I'm thinking the Shane Birch, for example, doesn't have his pelvis nearly as far forwards. But what are you going to find? Well, he needs to have some kind of compensatory move in order to control low points. So what does he do? He has his weight further back, but he has his handle much further forwards in order to shorten radius as he strikes the golf ball. So there's workarounds. Don't do the workarounds. Player after player after player. I've chosen number 1 and 2 in the world here, Scheffler and Rory. It might be that in 5 years' time, number 1 and 2 are completely different people. I promise you, if you post them up, they will be doing these things. They will have their weight forwards as they are hitting the golf ball. So we've seen the number 1 and number 2. Now let's have a look at one final golfer. So for the final golfer, staying on the European side, we have Justin Rose. Again, a rear view, making it all the more interesting. So line either side of the pelvis, midline. Let's see what happens with this golfer. and it doesn't take us long to realize that the right hip is going towards the midline, keeps driving forwards, so his hips are way more forwards as he's coming down into the ball than when they started. Is he hitting the ball with his weight forwards? Absolutely. You can bet your bottom dollar he is right there, like they all are. Belt buckle forwards. You see how he's going past with his pelvis. He's going past the midline when he had to set up, and again fully onto the left hand side. Again, I'll just draw that line like I said, point around the waist, it's the most forward, drop it down to the ground. I'll put that back a little bit. There we are. It's way in front of the heel. You can see how far back his heel is in relation to that point. It must be about 6 inches back of it. So again, the best players in the world, it doesn't matter who they are going to be doing this move. It's not a stack and tilt thing. It's an everybody who plays golf, who's any good at golf. If you've had a lesson, if you've found an article, if you have it in your mind that you're not meant to have your weight forwards as you hit the golf ball, I'm really sorry, but you are completely off track and you are not helping your cause whatsoever. Even if you bring this down to club level, if you look at the low handicappers in your club and you have the opportunity to play with them, if you're not one of them yet, then just have a look at their hips, look at where they are as they play their shots. Watch if they finish on their front foot or their back foot, and I guarantee you will learn a lot. Start to put this into place in your games. This is a non-negotiable, guys. It's a non-negotiable. You have to do it. If you have any questions, let me know. Happy golfing.